You are listening to Sustainability 101, a collaboration between Warin Lab and Green World Foundation. Sustainability 101 brings to you inspiring stories of people on the front line of environmental conservation. This program is part of Warin Lab Contemporary Podcast, a podcast that explores art and sustainability. I am Sukontip Nakasem and I'm your host.
I really believe in the power of consumers, and I really believe that consumers can really demand for the kind of business that they want to be supporters of. If there's enough demand, businesses would eventually find a way to make sure that they serve that needs of yours. And I think it's really important to know that consumers can be really powerful if we come together to ask for something.
A 25-year-old Moh Suthasiny Sudprasert co-founded a startup of sustainable food system, namely Happy Grocers, with her friends in 2020. The company connects urban people to the farming communities around Thailand. 2 years on, Happy Grocers have delivered over 200 tons of food to feed over 3,000 people in Thailand. 70% of food is second grade that is usually thrown away based on supermarket beauty standards.
Happy Grocers is basically a Thai startup that is set off to really want to create a sustainable food system in Thailand by connecting consumers to the farmers that are growing sustainable products. And we're talking about making sure that we are using our land efficiently, we're managing our water efficiently, and also making sure that we embrace the natural beauty of the products as well by having funny looking products in our supply chain to prevent food waste. So a lot of what we do is about engaging consumers in the supply chain so that consumers understand more about where food comes from and make better decisions for themselves and the world.
Moh Suthasiny's and her friends' initiative was recognized by several organizations. In a span of 2 years, her accolades include honors from Startup Thailand 2020, Seed Low Carbon Award 2020, Impact Collective 2021, and Forbes 30 Under 30 2022. In this episode, Vivi Siriporn Sriaram, Partner Development Director of Green World Foundation, speaks to Moh Suthasiny about her journey in the startup, her learning of the farmer's plight, as well as how she sees we could navigate to achieve sustainable agriculture.
My name is Moh, which means watermelon or tangmo in Thai. And I'm the co-founder of Happy Grocers, which is a startup where we would like to make food supply chain better and just basically be that place where consumers can feel like every purchase that they make through Happy Grocer would actually go to support local farmers and also conservation efforts in Thailand as well.
How did you have this idea? What made you start this project?
Yeah, actually, the reason that we came up with Happy Grocers was because the first time that the COVID hit Thailand, it was an opportunity for us to see that there was a huge disconnection between small farmers and people in the city. If you can remember, like the early days, like March 2020, people were so confused because it was locked down, right? Like people were wondering where to get food, and farmers were also a little bit frustrated about how they couldn't distribute their produce as well. But that's when we found out that, okay, if it didn't exist, we can just do it ourselves. So I just started with something really, really simple. Just made a post on Facebook saying that if anybody would like fresh grocery, hit me up because I know people who have food and we can deliver to you. And since the first day, there were about 20 people reaching out to my Facebook, and I didn't actually have a plan on how to do supply chain because I had no experience. But then I reached out to my co-founder, whose name is Pearl, and then she came in to help because she has like a better understanding of how logistics and operations work. And because she's native Bangkokian as well, so she knows how to get around and like stuff like that. And yeah, that's how it got started. Just like one Facebook post, 2 friends, and my friend's garage and her dad's car. And yeah, that's how we started.
How did you choose the farmer? How do you make sure that the quality that farmer produce is safe?
When it comes to food safety, is something that we are really concerned of and pay attention a lot on that, because there is a research by Thai Health Promotion Foundation that says that, so they did like a sample test around fresh markets in Bangkok, and then they found out that every 3 pieces of fruit and vegetable they found have 46% more chemical residues than the standard. And we're talking about stuff like formaldehyde that makes salad crunchy and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why we pay a lot of attention on making sure that every farmer that would get on our platform, we would have to go visit the farmers at the farm to really understand how they are doing their agriculture. And the reason that I don't say that we are looking specifically for organic farms is because there are so many farmers that are practicing or avoid the use of chemicals but are not certified yet. So that's why we think it's more important to actually go to see the farm. So we look at things like farm design, making sure that it actually looks like it doesn't use chemical. For example, easy thing you can notice if a farm is environmental friendly or actually practicing agriculture that's good for the environment, organic. Easy things you notice would be things like you would see that the floor have so much weed, or it doesn't look all neat and clean, because like if you go to conventional farm, usually they use weed killer and you would see that, oh, everywhere is just so beautiful and organized. But then you go to farms that we work with, you would see that it looks kind of messy, but in a good way. Or things like you would notice there would be barrier around the farm because there has to be, according to the standard, and I think it's also how it should work as well, where we need to make sure that there are barriers made by trees or just plants that are tall enough to be covering any possible chemicals from other farms. So things like that, like something that we like to kind of like an easy principle that we look at is if a farm is good for the environment, they would look messy. I think that's like an easy way for us to spot. So like practice is one thing. And also we would prefer to work with farms that actually are supporting other farmers communities as well, because many farms that we are working with, they are part of the community enterprise, which is called Visakit Chunchon, where they come together so that they can have bigger demand. I mean, it's good as community development, but also as a business, we need consistency, right? We need to make sure that we have enough supply to feed our demand as well. And that's why that type of organization makes sense for us to work with. And something that I think is the most important where we need to go to see the farm is that farmers prefer to work with people they can trust. So it takes time to build that relationship with the farmers.
So what is the challenge when you start? You have 20 Facebook friends interested, but now since you operate this more than 1 year, 2 years, what is your client and then the growth and the direction for the future of Happy Grocer?
Talking about customers and the journey on how to acquire the group of customers that we have today, it actually started off really naturally because when we started, we were really clear about our message, and that's why it attracts the right group of people to be the early adopter. So since day one, we have always been advocating about supporting local, trying to reduce plastic packaging, trying to support organically grown products as much as possible. And because I started with my own Facebook, my friends who live in Bangkok were the first people who supported me. And it's because, so I just graduated from bachelor like 6 months before I started. So I was like this young student who people always know that I always involved with like community projects and stuff like that. So when I started Happy Grocers, there are like colleagues at the UN or people who have worked on consultancy projects with me before that became my consumers. And the special part with that is that because when we started, everything was so confusing. Everything was so not clear. We had no experience, but because we always approach our business in a way that, okay, we are here to learn, and people know that that's our approach as well. That's why no matter how messed up we were or how many mistakes we make, people still stay because they know that we have a longer term vision to become better version of who we were at the beginning. So it started off with like really small group of people who trusted us as a person, and then people started to talk about who we are. And because the connections of the people who started to be our customers are people who really care about the cause, that's why it's a really effective marketing, because people advocate for something that they really trust in. And that's how we acquire like the first batch of customers. Also, after that, I think it really started to take off when we started to have endorsement from embassies. So it's the Swiss embassy first and then the US, Dutch, French, and Australian that started to request for our grocery truck to go to their compounds. And that's when people started to trust our brand a lot. And that's when like the word started to exponentially spread. Yeah, it's like for the last 2 years, we never actually spend money on ads at all because I'm the one who takes care of marketing and I would love to build real community around my brand. And that's why I prefer to approach creating community from like transparency on storytelling on social media or organizing workshops, take people to the farm or give talks, go to schools, and those has been like our main activities for communications and reaching more customers. Like usually we would look at this in a way that like, cause I'm a really nerdy person and I like to give value to people. So usually it would come from like us trying to figure out how we can educate or share stories with people. And then people become resonate with our mission and then they just end up becoming our customers.
So for you, it's very clear, right, that the food and sustainability have a strong connection.
Yeah, 100%. It's so clear. I mean, anything that you have to take from the nature has a connection with the nature, right? And food is a product of the nature. So, of course, I think there's so much opportunity that we can do to save the environment through our food.
Have you been to other area outside Bangkok, other development for the local farmer market? You see the trend that the consumer are more open to supporting organic product. And if they are not, why?
We also deliver to like Nonthaburi, Samut Prakan, or other faraway provinces like Phuket or Isan, stuff like that, Chiang Mai as well. We see the trend that people would love this kind of product more and more. And my assumption is that the demand would keep increasing accordingly to how much awareness people have about organic products or sustainability. My personal opinion about this is that it has a lot to do with accessibility of the product as well. That's why a lot of people would just prefer to not specifically look for certain type of products because food is available everywhere, right? And anywhere that's easy to access, then people tend to just go for that option. Especially when there has not been like a clear example or that the people can see in everyday life about their impacts on the environment or the impact that they would have on their health. Because we see this in our business as well, where at first, when we didn't have infrastructure, it was harder for people to buy in with using our service because it doesn't make their life easier. And especially these days, people are really, really busy. So I think doing good for the environment and have really great cause is really important, but also we also need to make it easy for people to access the products as well. And I think that's like really, really important because no matter how interested people are with your cause and mission as a business or as an organization, if you don't make it easy for them to support you, then it's really hard, right? But I think also if we talk about can organic food be accessible to everyone in Thailand, that's a really complex question, right? It's not about just availability or pricing or like what kind of pricing would it be suitable for, let's say, from like poor community or middle class for everyone to have access to this every day, right? I have spent so much time to think about that and it sometimes gives me existential crisis. But my assumption, and this is just my own theory, is that because most of the people who are like many people who are from Bangkok, who live in Bangkok right now are not originally from Bangkok, right? Like me personally, I'm from Pichit. And the reason that I moved here or many people moved here is because of education or jobs, just employment opportunities. But if we actually could add value to rural areas through agriculture, there would be more opportunity for people to move back home or work just in their hometown, just basically build economic developments in where they are from, then I believe that that's when people could have easier access to organic products anywhere, right? And then it wouldn't matter how much money you make at all, because if you can move back, live at home, have a farm, then I think that could be one way that organic food would be more accessible to more people. But because right now everything is really centralized in Bangkok and there's still so much inequality in terms of income, I think as long as we still have this structure, then it would be hard for more people to access organic food. But if we can decentralize this, and I believe that agriculture could be a tool to do that, then I think we could really make this more accessible to more people. Because I actually have seen so many young people that I know that moved back home to make their farm like 4.0 version. And it's just so nice to see. And I'm also really happy as well that like what we do is also a representation of how agriculture just can have so many other things you can do, and it can be fun and it can be really enjoyable. Because I grew up knowing that a lot of people don't want to be in agriculture anymore because it doesn't make a lot of money, it can be boring, and it's not chic. But now that I'm already in the business myself and I actually make it in the way that I want, and it's actually really fun, I think our journey could also be an inspiration for people to see that there are other parts of agriculture, so not just planting. It's an entire business that you can run, and there's so much more opportunities for you to explore and add value and just create nice things to the society.
Do you have plans to have like Happy Grocer for each province and passing on your energy or your knowledge through another mall in another area?
I don't think I have ever thought of that, because I never thought of myself as like a role model or something like that. But I think something that we would for sure do is to work with more farmers in more provinces to show people that like whatever they're growing right now or the lands that they have could actually create much more value than what it is at the moment. I'm not sure what it would look like if it's going to be like a Happy Grocers store there, because I would prefer if it's like a local people run store. I think something that we would like to participate in is to bring demand from the cities to those rural parts of Thailand. That's for sure something that we would like to do.
Through your journey, have you seen the worst example of agriculture, like been to the farm that they use heavy pesticide or speak to the farmer that they are? I think I remember you went to some protests, right?
Oh, yeah.
Could you share us a little bit of like what happened?
Yeah, so I had an opportunity to visit the farmers' protest a few months back. So the farmers, there were about like 1,000 people that came to camp outside on the street for about 2 months. And I think it's in front of Ministry of Finance. So it was such an interesting opportunity for us to learn more about what goes wrong in the food system. And specifically what the farmers were asking for at the time was for the government to help them with the debt that it has been having for the last at least like as long as 20 years, but some cases would be longer than that. So farmers had not been able to pay back the debt, right? And then we just like talking to so many people, just sit down there and just like learn so much. And it came down to the fact that everyone that were there, they were conventional farmers and they used GMO seed, chemical fertilizer, and pesticide. And what happened is that the price of these inputs keep increasing every year, while the price of the output keeps getting lower and lower because of a few reasons. I mean, first one is many people rely on middlemen, right? And almost every farmer that we know say that they have only one option, which is to sell to this person that would come to their village at a certain time, and that they do not have any other option than that. That's why they always have to say yes. And of course, there's a lot of opportunity for middlemen to take advantage of that. For example, there has been no standard in place sometimes. For example, like let's say if you have like rice, right? And then you come to this middle person, and then what happens there would be that they would give you a price accordingly to how good the rice is. And according to the stories we have heard of from the protest, a lot of people would just use their hands to grab rice. And then once they let go of the rice, if there are still rice sticking on their hands, they would say that, oh, your rice has too much moisture. Then the price would go lower. And then there are a lot of like standardized measurement in order to determine the price. And a lot of farmers has no negotiation power because people like the middleman would be like, if you don't want to sell to us, just go find the market yourself. But this is going to be the price that we're going to give you. And rice is like, you can keep it for a while, right? But things like, let's say farmers that we met would wait for their corn to be harvested, let's say like 10 tons. And then that's when they start looking for the buyer. And that's why they tend to say yes to whatever price that they got, because otherwise they wait for more days and the products might be rotten. And that happens a lot. So yeah, with that situation in mind, it has been almost impossible for farmers to make profit out of their investment that they take from the bank. And that's why it has been a vicious cycle of debt throughout generations. So from all the stories that we have heard of, me and Pearl, my co-founder, was just like, okay, so what does this imply? This implies that we need a new food system, we need a new market, we need a better offer to farmers. But at the same time, farmers need to go through a transition to do organic agriculture, or agriculture that doesn't have to rely on external inputs all the time, which the price keep going up more and more, especially after the war as well, with the fertilizers and pesticides price that keeps going up. That's when we thought that, okay, now we feel like there's an urge for us to grow more than what we are today. And that's why we're trying to find ways to get more investors and to really do this at scale, because I personally feel like we can't wait anymore.
What is a movie or a book about agriculture, food system, or sustainability that you watch or read and you found move and you love it? Which one you would recommend for the audience to check it out?
I would 100% recommend Kiss the Ground. I watched it more than 5 times. I cried every time. I think I cried because I feel really hopeful. So it's a movie that talks about how protecting our soil could be a solution for climate change, because apparently soil sequesters carbons. And if we do agriculture in the right way, by, let's say, like not using synthetic chemical fertilizer and pesticides, then there's a chance that we can protect our soil. The whole idea about it's actually possible to change or to reverse climate change through our food. I think that's really powerful. And I would totally recommend people to watch that.
If you are interested to be part of sustainable food system, Happy Grocers product can be ordered online or from Happy Grocers truck from 25 locations in Sathorn, Sukhumvit, and Ari. Or if you would like to have Happy Grocers truck in your community, please contact Moh Suthasiny. That's it for this episode. Happy eating, you can make a difference.